You sit at a dinner table, surrounded by laughter, clinking glasses, and the low hum of casual chatter. Everyone else seems to be having a wonderful time. They are talking about real estate, the weather, or a popular television show. But you feel like a ghost in your own skin. There is a physical distance between you and the conversation, a strange, hollow sensation in your stomach that whispers, "I don't belong here." You try to smile, you try to ask the right questions, but the effort feels like translating a foreign language. You look around the room and wonder why this seems so easy for everyone else, and why your quiet search for something real makes you feel so profoundly isolated. If this is familiar, if you recognize the exhausting sensation of being on the outside of what everyone else calls normal, then what you are experiencing is not a psychological defect. It is not an inability to socialize, and it is not a pathology. According to Dr. Gabor Maté's paradigm-shifting work on trauma and societal conditioning, what our culture defines as normal is often a state of collective numbness. To be well adjusted to a fundamentally disconnected society is not a measure of health. If you find yourself struggling to fit into the conventional molds of work, relationships, and emotional expression, it is not because you are broken, it is because you are exceptionally different. Your authentic self is rejecting the toxic conditioning that others have accepted as normal. This is the hidden truth of those who feel out of place. You are not malfunctioning, you are responding with acute, biological honesty to a world that has forgotten how to be human. And until you understand the unique intelligence of your differences, you will continue to try to cure the very parts of yourself that make you whole. For generations, clinical psychology has operated under the assumption that the majority defines health. If the majority of people can tolerate a 40-hour work week in a windowless office, if they can ignore their bodily tension, and if they can engage in superficial relationships without distress, then that behavior is labeled normal. Those who cannot, those who experience anxiety, chronic fatigue, deep emotional sensitivity, or a persistent sense of alienation, are labeled as diseased, sensitive, or abnormal. But Dr. Gabor Maté's book, The Myth of Normal, consistently reveals a more compassionate and systemic truth. Much of what is considered normal in our society is neither natural nor healthy. Our modern culture asks us to ignore our basic human needs for connection, authenticity, physical rest, and emotional expression to keep the machines of productivity and consumerism running. To survive in this environment, most people must construct an adaptive self. They must learn to suppress their bodily sensations, mute their emotions, and ignore their intuition. They go numb to adapt. But some people cannot go numb. Whether due to their early environment, their genetic predisposition, or the sheer strength of their authentic self, their nervous systems refuse to comply with the anesthesia of modern life. They remain highly sensitive, deeply perceptive, and acutely aware of the misalignment around them. From a trauma-informed perspective, this is not a weakness, it is a form of evolutionary preservation. If you are one of these people, your life is guided by 10 highly specific patterns of behavior and perception. Let us look at these 10 signs that you are exceptionally different, not because you are broken, but because your authenticity has survived. The first sign that you are exceptionally different is an immediate somatic intolerance to inauthenticity and superficiality. You cannot stand small talk. When you are forced to engage in polite, shallow conversations about the weather, material possessions, or social gossip, you feel a physical drain on your energy. Your jaw grows tight, your focus drifts, and you feel a deep, heavy boredom that feels almost like physical pain. You crave deep, vulnerable, and raw conversations about what people actually feel, fear, and love. If a social setting doesn't offer that depth, you would far rather be entirely alone. According to Dr. Gabor Maté, this is not a social impairment, It is a healthy functioning of your internal compass. As children, we are all born with an exquisite capacity for authenticity. We know what we feel, and we express it without filter. But if we grew up in an environment where we had to pretend to be happy, quiet, or agreeable to keep our caregivers close, we learn to suppress that compass. If you have retained this somatic intolerance to fake behavior, it means your attachment survival strategies did not completely destroy your authenticity. This doesn't mean you're broken. It means your mind learned to protect your truth. That physical exhaustion you feel during small talk, that is not social anxiety. That is intelligence in service of survival, refusing to let you waste your vital life force on connections that do not nourish your soul. And this leads directly to the second sign, which is how you experience the emotional landscape of the people around you. The second sign is that you physically absorb the emotional energy of a room or another person before they even speak. You walk into an office or a house, and without anyone saying a word, your body registers a shift. You can feel the unexpressed tension between a couple, the quiet despair of a coworker, or the hidden anger of a friend. You don't just observe these emotions, you feel them in your own muscles, your own gut, and your own chest. You often find yourself feeling anxious, angry, or exhausted after being around certain people, even if the conversation was completely pleasant. From a trauma-informed perspective, this is the result of early childhood attunement. If you grew up with a parent who was emotionally volatile, unpredictable, depressed, or unavailable, your safety depended on your ability to predict their emotional state. You had to learn to read the micro-expressions on their face, the tension in their voice, and the energy in their body before they could react. Your nervous system became an exquisitely sensitive radar system. The body remembers what the mind was forced to forget. You did not choose to be an empath. Your nervous system was trained to be hypervigilant to survive. Not because something was wrong with you, because something was wrong with the environment that required a child to act as an emotional weather station. This sensitivity is not a pathology. It is a highly developed biological intelligence that allowed you to navigate a chaotic world, even if it leaves you exhausted in adulthood. But here is where the sensitivity of your nervous system becomes even more specific. The third sign is a physical, visceral reaction to dishonesty, lies, or manipulation. When someone is lying to you, even if they are telling a harmless white lie or presenting a highly polished fake version of themselves, your body knows it before your mind does. You feel a sudden flutter in your stomach, a tightening in your throat, or a vague sense of nausea. You might look at their perfect smile and their reasonable words, but your gut is screaming that something is wrong. According to Gabor Maté's clinical insights, this is the activation of your somatic lie detector. Children are naturally attuned to the truth of their environment. If a parent is angry but smiles and says, "Everything is fine," the child's body registers the anger while their mind tries to believe the words. This conflict creates deep confusion. If you have kept your somatic lie detector active into adulthood, it means you have stopped letting external words override your internal bodily sensations. That visceral discomfort, that is not paranoia. That is your biology remembering that ignoring your gut was once dangerous. It is your body's intelligence protecting you from betrayal before your logical mind can find the evidence. And this need for absolute truth leads to the fourth sign, which dictates how your mind processes the world. The fourth sign is an obsessive, non-negotiable need to understand the why behind everything. You cannot simply follow rules because that's the way things are done. You cannot accept conventional beliefs, religious dogmas, or workplace procedures without questioning their origin, their purpose, and their integrity. If a boss, a doctor, or a teacher tells you to do something without a logical, compassionate explanation, something inside you immediately rebels. You are chronically curious, always searching for the root cause of human behavior, societal systems, and your own pain. Psychologists have observed that this deep need for explanation is a common trait among those who survived childhood confusion. If you grew up in a home where rules were arbitrary, where secrets were kept, or where your reality was constantly gaslit, your young mind had to become an investigator to survive. You had to figure out the hidden rules of the house just to avoid punishment or neglect. Your curiosity is not defiance. It is your mind's way of building a safe map of the world. This is not a flaw. That is intelligence in service of survival, refusing to let you walk blindly into systems that might require you to abandon your own truth. But as you carry this need for integrity into the modern world of work, you will encounter the fifth sign, one that is often treated as a medical issue. The fifth sign is that you get physically sick or profoundly exhausted in high-stress toxic work environments. While others around you seem to be able to work 60 hours a week, survive on coffee, tolerate corporate politics, and ignore their stress, you cannot. Within a few months of entering a high-stress, toxic environment, your body begins to protest. You experience chronic migraines, digestive disorders, insomnia, skin flare-ups, or a bone-deep fatigue that no weekend of rest can cure. You feel weak, lazy, and deeply frustrated that you cannot tough it out like everyone else. But according to Dr. Gabor Maté's work on psychoneuroimmunology, your body is acting as a canary in the coal mine. The canary is not weaker than the miners. It is simply more sensitive to the toxic gases that are slowly poisoning everyone in the room. When you ignore your emotional stress to keep working in a toxic job, your nervous system remains in a chronic fight or flight state. Your immune system becomes dysregulated, and your body begins to say no on your behalf. The body remembers what the mind was forced to forget. Your physical sickness is not a failure of your biology. It is the wisdom of your body, refusing to let you sacrifice your physical and mental health for the sake of survival in a toxic system. Not because something was wrong with you, because your body is too healthy to tolerate what is wrong with the culture. And because your body refuses to suppress its stress, your emotional world will also operate on a highly unique timeline. The sixth sign is an inability to just get over things without fully processing and integrating them. When you experience a loss, a betrayal, a creative failure, or a minor conflict, you cannot just brush it off and move on with your day. You cannot look on the bright side or distract yourself with positive thinking. You must feel the full weight of the grief, the anger, or the disappointment. You must write about it, sit with it, and process it, sometimes for days or weeks. People around you might tell you that you are too sensitive, too dramatic, or that you overthink everything. According to trauma-informed psychology, this is the path of genuine emotional integration. Many people who just get over things are actually just suppressing their grief. They are packing the pain away into their muscles and their unconscious mind to keep functioning. Your inability to go numb is a sign that your somatic integration system is still intact. That slow processing speed, that is not weakness. That is the necessary, patient work of a brain and a body that are refusing to store trauma for the future. It is your system's intelligence ensuring that every wound is clean before it heals over. And to find the safety required for this deep processing, you will find yourself drawn to non-human forms of connection. The seventh sign is a profound, regulating affinity for animals, nature, or silent spaces over human socialization. You find more genuine comfort, peace, and regulation in the presence of a dog, a forest, or a completely silent room than you do at a party with your closest friends. When your nervous system is overwhelmed, you do not seek distraction. You seek the wild, unpeeled reality of the natural world. You feel a deep, spiritual connection to the trees, the ocean, and the animals. feeling as though they understand your true nature far better than the human world ever has. According to Dr. Gabor Maté, this is the search for safe co-regulation. As children, our nervous systems require a safe, calm, and attuned adult to help us learn how to regulate our own emotions. If the adults in our lives were stressed, chaotic, or unsafe, our nervous system could not co-regulate with them. In the absence of safe human attunement, many sensitive children learn to co-regulate with nature. The forest does not ask you to perform. The dog does not judge your sensitivity. The silence does not require you to wear a mask. This is not social isolation. This is your nervous system returning to the ancient biological baseline of the earth to find the safety it was denied in the human world. But this deep connection to your own rhythm means you will struggle to walk the path that society has laid out for you. The eighth sign is that you cannot follow conventional timelines or societal milestones without feeling like you are suffocating. You look at the traditional path, buying a house, climbing the corporate ladder, marrying at a certain age, retiring at 65, and instead of feeling motivated, you feel a deep existential dread. You cannot measure your success by the size of your bank account or the status of your title. You would rather live in a small, rented space, doing work that you love, than own a mansion built on your own exhaustion. Your life moves in cycles, non-linear jumps, and highly individual rhythms that make no sense to the conventional world. Gabor Maté's work consistently shows that conventional societal timelines are designed for economic utility, not human flourishing. If you have retained the courage to live on your own timeline, it means you are prioritizing authenticity over societal conformity. This doesn't mean you're broken. It means you have realized that your path must be directed by your internal values, not by external expectations. Your non-linear life is not a sign of failure or confusion. It is the active expression of a soul that refuses to let its unique path be paved over by a standardized culture. And the consequence of this non-conformity is a quiet, persistent companion that you have carried since childhood. The ninth sign is a deep, quiet sense of exile, the feeling of being a stranger in a strange land. No matter how many friends you have, no matter how much your family loves you, you carry a persistent internal sense that you do not fully belong here. You look at the human world with a mixture of deep love, immense sorrow, and profound confusion. You feel as though you were born without the user manual that everyone else received. You carry a quiet, sacred loneliness behind your ribs, a feeling of being a witness to a world that you cannot fully participate in. From a trauma-informed perspective, this sense of exile is the price of choosing authenticity over attachment. When a child realizes that to be themselves, they must be different from their family or their culture, they step into the role of the outsider. You accepted the pain of not belonging to avoid the far greater pain of losing your own soul. The body remembers what the mind was forced to forget. Your sense of exile is the physical weight of your integrity, not because something was wrong with you, because you refused to abandon yourself to buy a cheap sense of belonging. And now we come to the 10th and deepest sign of all, the one that represents the ultimate, most beautiful expression of being exceptionally different. The 10th sign, the deepest one, is that you carry a non-negotiable urge to heal the generational trauma of your lineage, even if it makes you the black sheep of your family. You look at your parents, your grandparents, and your ancestors, and you see the unspoken patterns that have run through your family for generations. The unexpressed grief, the chronic emotional avoidance, the patterns of addiction, or the silent control. You look at these dynamics, and instead of repeating them out of loyalty, you choose to stop. You speak the secrets. You go to therapy. You cry the tears that your mother couldn't cry. You feel the anger that your father had to suppress. You actively refuse to pass the unresolved pain of your ancestors down to your own children or the next generation. This feels like the ultimate act of betrayal. Your family might react with anger, denial, or distance, accusing you of being disloyal, dramatic, or the source of the family's problems. According to Dr. Gabor Maté, this is the most courageous role a human being can play in their lifetime. You are the designated cycle breaker. In every family lineage, there comes a time when the weight of the accumulated, unresolved trauma becomes too heavy for the lineage to bear. The line requires an exceptionally sensitive, deeply strong, and fiercely authentic soul to step forward and carry the pain to its final resolution. Your nervous system was chosen for this work, not because you were cursed, but because you were strong enough to hold the fire of transformation. That intense pain you feel, that is not your failure. That is the collective weight of your lineage, finally being felt, processed, and released through a body that is safe enough to hold it. This is not weakness. This is the ultimate intelligence in service of the survival of your lineage. You are not the source of the family's dysfunction, you are the end of it. You are not broken, you have never been broken. You have simply been exceptionally different in a world that demands conformity. Your sensitivity, your intolerance to small talk, your somatic pain, your need for solitude, your sense of exile, and your urge to heal are not signs of pathology. They are the living evidence of your health. They are the proof that despite everything you went through, despite the pressure of a culture that tried to numb you, your authentic self survived. According to Dr. Maté, the path to healing is not about trying to become normal. It is about the complete, radical acceptance of your own exceptional difference. It is about looking at your sensitivity and saying, "This is my strength. This is my compass. This is my gift." When you stop trying to cure your uniqueness, the internal war ends. You stop trying to fit into rooms that were never built for you. You stop trying to gain the approval of people who can only love you when you are wearing a mask. Instead, you begin to build a life that matches your biology. This is slow, revolutionary, and deeply sacred work. It happens in the quiet choices of your daily life. It is the moment you decline the shallow invitation and choose the solitude of your garden instead. It is the moment you allow yourself to be sick when your body is exhausted, without feeling guilty for not working. It is the moment you look at your family's unresolved pain, take a deep breath, and say, "I love you, but I will not carry this for you anymore." With every choice, you are showing your nervous system that it is finally safe to step down from the battlefield. You are teaching your cells, your heart, and your breath that you are no longer a child who must hide to survive. The same body that carried the pain of the past is fully capable of holding the peace of your present. You are not abnormal. You are just awake, and the world has never needed awake people more than it does today. Which of these 10 signs felt the most familiar, or perhaps the most validating, to you in your journey? If conversations like this feel valuable to you, consider subscribing. This channel is a dedicated sanctuary for those who are ready to stop apologizing for their sensitivity and start honoring the deep, biological truth of their authenticity. Self-understanding will not rewrite your past, but it will change how your past lives inside your body today. And that is where your freedom begins. The loneliest part of being a cycle breaker is realizing that to those who are still asleep, your awakening will always look like a disturbance. If you saw yourself in these 10 signs, which one has been your heaviest burden, and how can you offer your body more permission to hold it with compassion today? You are not normal. The myth of normalcy. Signs. You are different. Why do you feel so out of place in a world that everyone else seems to navigate with ease? In this deeply validating video inspired by the psychological philosophy of Dr. Gabor Maté, we explore why feeling abnormal is actually a sign of deep somatic health and authenticity. Discover the myth of normal and how modern society pathologizes our natural human needs for connection, depth, and rest. We break down 10 super-specific signs that you are exceptionally different, including a physical intolerance to inauthenticity, the somatic absorption of emotional environments, your body's canary in the coal mine response to toxic work, and the intense urge to heal generational trauma. Learn to stop treating your sensitivity as a disease and start honoring it as an evolutionary strength, shifting your nervous system from the hypervigilance of survival to the peace of true self-acceptance.